Hey everybody, Marcus Crawford here with the Idaho Quadcopter channel. Hey, I've got a drone to show you today, but it's a drone that's been out for quite a while and a drone that's become near and dear to my heart. This is the beginner's guide to your first flight with the DJI Mini SE. This is a drone that I have really grown to know and enjoy. For a lot of people, this is their very first drone. Not only because it's very competitively priced, reasonably priced, it's also got a lot of features on it that make it very friendly and very easy to use for a first-time droner or somebody that just is a casual drone flyer, right? You want to take one with you with your RV when you're out camping or whatever, and you just do want to do an occasional drone flight. This is the perfect drone for it, or many other things. So anyway, what we're going to do today is I am going to show you how to get everything together and get started, get the drone in the air for your very first flight. Let's start now by showing you what's in the box. So as I said, this is my first time opening this box. I just put it back in there for this video. I've had this drone for nearly a year. I can't remember exactly when I bought it. I do know that I took it in November last year. It was the only drone I took to spin up in Austin, Texas, because it's so compact and easy to use. But when you open your box, this is what you're going to see. Now, I've put all my decals and such that were on the drone on the top lid there. That's not the way yours is going to look. I've already taken all that stuff off of my drone, so that's why that's there. But you're going to see the drone itself on the left side here. And, you know, you can see it's a very compact unit, folded like this. I named mine Johnny Mini SE after my friend Johnny Drone Flyer. And then the controller is right here, and I had that in there backwards. It sits in there like that. There's the controller right there. We'll go into detail on this guy in a few minutes. But then also in the bottom of the box here, you're going to see a box of parts, and you're going to see all the documentation. And the documentation, I'm going to tell you, this quick start guide is probably the most important one. I would look through that. The rest of this stuff is probably something, well, new to flying drones. I'm not, you know, you may want to look at that one as well. But most of this are things that you can probably just put back in the box. But I'm not going to tell you, I'm not telling you not to read the manual. Take a look at the quick start guide. But what I'm telling you to do is go online and download a PDF of the owner's manual for the Mini SE. And I will put a link in the description below as to where you can find that PDF file. You will find it much easier to read on your computer or on your mobile device, I suspect, rather than one of these little manuals. So in my case, those end up going right back in the box. So let's show you all the other accessories. So when you open up that little box that's underneath the RC, or sometimes called the ground station or the remote control, you know, whatever you want to call it. Most people, it's commonly called the remote control. But what you have is what comes in that little box is a screwdriver here. What's this screwdriver for? It fits these little screws on the propellers. If you never damage a propeller, you probably won't need that screwdriver other than to maybe check these for tightness once in a while. And then you have an extra set of gimbal sticks for your controller. Those screw right into there. We'll show you the controller in a little bit, but it also comes with a set right in there in the controller that you can unscrew from the gimbal itself. And then you get an extra pair of props, one clockwise and one counterclockwise. So if you damage a prop, you've already got some to repair it with. If you damage more than one of the same rotation, you're probably going to want to, you would have to order some more. And in fact, if you're worried about that, you could probably order some from the DJI website or off of Amazon right now. But it also gives you a couple of USB cables. Now this one is a USB-A to USB-C. What's that for? That is for charging the drone. You've got a USB-C slot right there, and you would simply plug the USB-C end into the drone, the USB-A end into a charge block, and I guess that's a good time to mention the kit does not come with a charge block. So for instance, a charger that you would use for your phone or your laptop, any USB charger, probably a quick charger is going to charge the battery the fastest, so that's probably what you'd want to get a hold of if you can, and that will charge the battery inside the drone. We'll show you the battery itself in a few minutes here. So then it also comes with another cable. This is a USB-A to micro USB. Well, what that is for is the controller here. And what I want to warn you about this controller is you should be able to see that it's kind of it's not really shaped like the end of the micro USB. See how the micro USB is smaller on one end than it is the other. So when you be very, very careful when you're inserting the cable into the controller itself, because you can break that in there and then you would have to send it in for repairs. So the larger portion of the micro USB plug there is what goes on the bottom. So the smaller portion on top, so you would plug it in, and like I said, I would say very, very gently when you're doing it, and if you feel any resistance, don't force it because you'll end up breaking it. But it will plug right in there, and there it plugged in. And then you'd have to plug this into any kind of charge block. This doesn't have as big a battery as the drone, so you know, like your cell phone charger or something would work fine, and we'll charge it up. Probably one of the most important things are in this bag right here. So depending on what kind of mobile device you're using to run the Fly app with the drone, you'll use one of these, and you know, I call them OTG cables. I've heard people call them other things now. This is the micro USB end that goes into the controller, and you can see this one, it's square just like in the controller, and you can kind of see the end that should be on the bottom. So this is going to go in just like that, and in fact, well, let me show you these other cables first. So you also have a micro USB to micro USB, and look, they shape this one like a regular micro USB cable. This one is square. I don't know why they do that. And then this is if you've got a phone that uses a USB-C connector. So USB-C, that would go to your phone. And again, micro USB on the other end. In my case, I'm going to use the one with the lightning connector for the iPhone. So anyway, that's what comes in the kit. So on your mobile device, and you can see I've got several different drone apps on my phone here, but you're going to want the DJI Fly app, and let me open that up real quick. So I'll put a link in the description below to show you this. It's telling me that I've got firmware available for my Mavic 3, and it will. If you need firmware for your Mini SE, it'll do the same thing. It'll tell you that it needs a firmware update, and we can talk about that in a few minutes, but that's what the Fly app looks like. And again, I will put a link in the description to where you can download the Fly app. If you have an Android device, you won't find it in the Google Play Store. It's something that you have to download off of the DJI download page, and I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put a link there. But if you have an iOS device, an Apple device, you simply go into the App Store and you'll find the Fly app in there, DJI Fly app, and get that downloaded to your phone and ready to go. Okay, let's talk about how you're going to charge the batteries in both the drone and the controller. So first, let's show how you can check the battery status. If I short press the power button, look, it's fully charged right now. You see all 4 lights lit up. That tells me the charge state of the controller, and it is essentially fully charged. And then on the drone, the power button is on the bottom of the drone here, and if I do the same thing, just a quick short press, that'll tell me the state of the battery in the drone, and you can see that it's over half full. That third light was blinking there. So, you know, the charge state is somewhat over half full. So let's show you what happens when we plug it in. So I'm using a charger from my Mavic 3. I did that because it's already got the USB-C connector on one end, quick charger, and then it has a USB-A port so I can charge the controller at the same time. And this is just a cable that I have, and it's got that micro USB on the other end. So as for the drone, let's show you how to plug that in. And USB-C port right next to the micro SD card. And we'll talk about that a little later. But when you plug that in, you're going to see this guy start to charge. And you can see those lights strobe. And they will continue to strobe till it gets all the way to the fourth light there. And I can't remember if all four lights stay on at that point or if they shut off, one or the other. However, when it's, you can check it to see if it's fully charged, again, by short pressing the button, and it will tell you the charge state of the battery. So we're just going to leave that charge. And then again, to charge the controller, I explained to you earlier about this port, how it's square, and this micro USB port is not. So you want to put the long end down, and again, be very, very ginger when you're putting it in there. There, it just slid in very easily. And you can see, yeah, it's showing it's charging, and you can see it's strobing all the way to the fourth light there. And again, what I'm going to say is once that is fully charged, I can't remember if it either shuts off or all four of those lights just stay on, but it'll be one or the other, and you'll know then it's fully charged, and you can test it just by pressing the power button and tell the charge state of the device. Okay, let's take a look at the drone itself and how you're going to get this guy ready for flight. So let's take a look at the battery real quick in the battery compartment on the drone. I can see I've numbered this battery number 4 in here, and this is a lithium polymer battery. So it has a very high density for power to weight. But there you go. I can't remember what milliamp battery this is, and that is too small for me to read, but suffice it to say that it gets you about 30 minutes flight time. And if you had a Fly More kit, you could put this in a battery hub, and you could charge it along with other batteries at the same time. But in this case, with this kit, you're just charging it inside the drone, and it just fits in there. You can see the connectors at the top, and it'll only fit one way. You couldn't put it in backwards if you tried. In other words, it won't fit in that way. So, with this tab up, and you want to push it in until it snaps, and you heard it snap there. And when you're pulling it out, you push up on that little tab right there, push in, and it'll pull out, and then let's snap it in again, and you could hear the snap there, and then just simply close the battery door. And that's about it for the battery. Then the micro SD card fits in right there. Press in. Let's pull that out. You're going to want to use a fairly high-speed card. Even though this drone only shoots in 2.7K, it does have a 40 megabit bit rate. In other words, how it transfers to the data to the drone itself. I've got a 32 gigabyte card, which I think is plenty for this drone, and I use a SanDisk Extreme, so I could recommend that, and that is one of the cards that DJI recommends as well. So to slide it in, it's just like, anybody that's used to SD cards. In this case, it goes face down, and you just push it in until it clicks. Maybe. There we go. And when it stays in there, you know it's locked in. And be careful because it's spring-loaded. So I have spent a lot of time hunting for micro SD cards. If you don't get it clicked all the way in, it'll shoot back out of there. And where it lands, nobody knows. So just a word of warning there. Okay, let's take a look at how you unfold the drone. It may seem simple, but it's worth talking about. Front arms first, just simply pull those straight out, just like that. They fold out, and you can feel them click into place when they come out. Now the rear arms are a little different, and this is typical of DJI drones. They kind of fold down and out, and again, you feel it kind of click in. Ultralight, 249 gram drone right there. And then same thing on the other side. Just pull it out, and you can feel it lock into place. And then the next thing you're going to want to pull off is the gimbal cover. It's got a little tab right here. You simply pull that out. You heard that click, and it pulls right off, and there is the camera gimbal on the drone. This guy can be a little tricky to put on there. I try and get those two hooks latched first, and you know, the key, you can saw me there straightening out the camera. The key sometimes is to keeping that camera straight while you're doing it, but anyway, lock it in there, and you heard that click, and it's locked into place, and that holds the gimbal in place to keep it from getting damaged while you're transporting it. There's the little gimbal. That's that little 2.7K little bit of genius camera that DJI puts on there. These are vent holes on the front there. Those are not sensors. The only sensors this drone has on it is it's got an optical flow sensor right there, and these are infrared sensors that are next to it. That tells the drone if it's moving in space, and it also tells it how close it is to the ground when it's landing, so that's why those are there. So this is simply a light right here on the back of the drone. So that's about it for preparing your drone and getting it unfolded and so forth and ready for flight. And then when we get out in the field, I'll show you how to do a compass calibration, etc. before you fly. But that is essentially it right there. Okay, this is the Mini SE controller, a little genius bit of device that it is. So first, let's take a look at how we plug in that OTG cable to use with your mobile device. And again, in my case, I'm going to use this one with a lightning connector for my iPhone. But on the left side here, again, you're going to look at that little micro USB port there, and it's pretty easy because on this one, because you're not going to put it in this way because the cable would be pointed the wrong way. So you point it this way, and as you can see, the lower part of that square coincides with the little lower part of the part that's sticking out of that plug. And again, I am very, very gentle when I put this in. I never force it. I always make sure that it's perfectly straight, and just be very careful when I put that in. Okay, there you felt it snap in there, and it went in real easy. So then this is the end that plugs into your phone, so that's going to tell you that the phone is going to go down here, right? So if we open up these arms, and then I pulled that out so I can thread this cable in, and let's open up the other arm. And before we try and put our mobile device in, let's grab the Gimbal Sticks, and they simply screw right in. Hopefully you can see that. And here's the other one for the other side, and just a few twists. And it's in there. You don't need to put them in real tight, but that's how you're going to control the drone. And then your phone itself, the sides of the phone go in both sides here. And then in this case, I'd be plugging this into my iPhone. Let's take a look at that real quick. If you've got an iPhone or any phone, you're going to want to take the cover off. And I'm going to tell you, this is an iPhone 13 Pro Max, so it's a big phone, and you'll see that it'll still fit in here. And in fact, I think this controller, I've used these controllers with an iPad Mini before. It just barely fits in there, but it does. So you could use like an iPad Mini if you wanted to. So again, I've got the lightning cable that I'm going to plug into the end of my phone here. So plug that in, and then I kind of just line it up, and you can see the grooves in the bottom of the controller there. And then I have to, make sure that I've got this thing on this side that I'm missing the plug there, but I can push it in, and you can feel it push in on the phone. And then same thing on this side. I never worry about if it's perfectly symmetrical or not, but you can obviously get it right in the middle. And that's going to hold your phone, and it holds the phone very, very tight. And you're going to be kind of holding on to these things too, so don't worry about that. And then you're going to want to put out your antenna. I always put them at a 45-degree angle. You know, some people put them clear up, some people put them out like that. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The most important thing is to have this flat part of the antenna pointed towards your drone. This is a Wi-Fi drone. This flat part is what is going to send signal to the drones. I've already showed you this. This is the on-off button. We can press it real quick and it'll tell us the battery state. But a short press and a long press is going to turn on the controller. Short press, long press. And you heard the controller beep there. And those lights will blink until it connects with the drone. So we're not going to see that on right now. And you can see it just fired up my phone here because the phone saw that there's something hooked up to it. And you know, sometimes it will turn on the app itself. Anyway, so this is what it looks like with the Fly app open on the controller. And again, these lights will blink until the controller is connected to the drone. Okay, this button right here is the return to home button. So if you were out someplace and you wanted to tell the drone to come back to its landing spot, you would hold that button down and you'd hear that beeping that you just heard. And it's only beeping like that because it is not connected to the drone, but it would give you a double beep. And I press it again to shut it off. So for instance, if you hit return to home and you decided you didn't need it anymore, you'd press it again and it would stop. It also works as a pause button. In other words, anytime the drone is engaged in anything and you want it to stop, short press will stop it from doing so. So it'll be this button here to stop and start recording on the left-hand side as you're looking at the controller. On the right-hand side, take a picture with this button right here. Now you got a thumb wheel or a finger wheel right here. That controls your gimbal. That pushes the gimbal, the camera on the drone, up and down. So in other words, you could look straight forward with the camera. I think it does have a little bit of an upward tilt, but you could look 90 degrees down if you scroll this down. And we'll see that as we fly the drone. And then you have the gimbals themselves. We can go into exactly what the gimbals do when we're flying the drone. You'll see that, but just quickly I can tell you this. This raises, the left gimbal will raise the drone in altitude, pull it down and the drone will descend. Go to the left and the drone will yaw to the left. Go to the right and the drone will yaw to the right. When I say yaw, left, right. And then this then will pitch the drone forward. So in other words, send the drone moving forward, or if you pull it back, it will pitch the drone backwards, have it come backwards, and then left and right bank. So you go to the left, the drone's going to bank to the left. You go to the right, the drone is going to bank to the right. But we will look at that when we get the drone out and fly it. So that's the basics of the controller. Hey, okay, now you've had a good look at the drone and a good look at the controller. There's only one thing left to do. Let's go out and let's get this bird in the air. All right, I am out at Heroes Park to show the flight portion of this video. I've got the DJI Mini SE, of course. Before we get into it too much, I thought I'd talk about for just a second some of the features of this particular little drone, you know, that you can buy at such a reasonable price on Amazon or direct from DJI for about $299. It has a 1/2.3 sensor, shoots 12 megapixel pictures, 2.7K 30 frames per second video. So yeah, it's not 4K video, but I'll put the 2.7K video of this little guy up against a lot of other drones 4K. It's that good. It's got a transfer rate of 40 megabits per second, so it's not like it, you know, there's a lot of data in that video. If you're somebody that likes to do a lot of color correction and tweaking of your video. However, if you're that kind of person, I suspect you're going to have probably a more professional drone for this one. For most of us, the video on this is just going to look darn good as it is right off the SD card. And that, I guess, is worth mentioning. That is where the drone will record the video, is to the SD card that we talked about earlier. So speed-wise, this thing will ascend at 4 meters per second, which is about 9 miles an hour. It will go forward about 13 meters per second, which is about 29 miles an hour. That's plenty quick, and that's faster than the original DJI Mavic Mini. And I just, most of us are not going to have any problems with speed on this guy, and it actually cuts the wind pretty good as well. It's got a level 5, I believe, wind rating. There's not a lot of intelligent features on this drone like you'll find on some other drones. It does have quick shots though, which is pretty handy, and I did a video on that some time ago. And it is a Wi-Fi drone. In other words, this isn't an OcuSync drone, so range-wise it's limited, but honestly, a little mini drone like this, how far are you really going to fly it anyway? So I think the Wi-Fi on this drone is better than 90% of them out there. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the weather today. We've got a little bit of a breeze. UAV Forecast, which is an app that I can recommend to you. Look it up in the App Store or the Google Play Store. You'll want it because it'll tell you your conditions at takeoff, wind speed, etc., and you can set it to tell you wind speed at altitude and satellite conditions, temperature, and so forth. And that's another thing worth mentioning. This drone in particular, I think DJI has the minimum temperature, I believe it's 32 degrees. I might have to look that one up. If it's less than that, I'll put it on the screen. But the high temperature is 104 degrees. So if it's hotter than 104 degrees, understand that you could end up overheating your drone if you're up flying it. And these little drones don't have fans in them, so keeping them moving is a big deal to keep them cool and operating as they should. And then also, I use the FAA's Before You Fly app to make sure that I'm flying in a place that's legal to fly. If you're in someplace other than the U.S., I'm sure your Civil Aviation Authority will have a similar app for you to use, and I would encourage you to do that. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. Let's get this drone in the air and let's take a look at your first flight with the DJI Mini SE. Okay, I know I showed this before, but I want to remind you that obviously before you fly, you fold out the arms fully. Front ones go straight out, bottom ones fold out, down and out. And then you don't ever want to forget to take off the gimbal cover on the camera. That's an easy thing to forget to do. So again, you can see how I have my phone mounted in the controller. I have the antenna set at a 45-degree angle. Remember, the flat part of the antenna pointed towards the drone. You just squeeze these arms together to hold your phone in there. And I always hold it from down below just to make sure that I don't lose my phone, and drop it. But honestly, I've never had that happen with this controller, but it's just something worth talking about. You're going to want to squeeze those arms in there fairly tightly. So this is the order that I turn everything on. First I fire up the drone, and as I told you, the drone, the button to turn it on is on the bottom. So you've already got your battery installed, clicked in, and you can short press. And yeah, I can see I got 4 lights there. I got a full battery. So to turn on the drone, it's a short press and a long press, and those batteries strobe all the way up. And you can hear, I don't know if you could hear the tone from the drone, and then you saw the gimbal go through its calibration. And then I'm going to set that out here on a landing pad. So the next thing I do is I turn on the controller. So again, that's a short press and a long press. And you'll hear it beep, and it'll turn on. And those lights, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it here. I'm hoping so. Those lights blink until it gets a connection, and then we'll know that it's connected to the drone. And they went solid there, so we know we're connected to the drone. I'm starting a screen recording here so you can see what I'm doing on the app. So the next thing we're going to do is fire up the app, and it's the DJI Fly app. So I'm turning it on, and look at that. We've already got, the drone already has satellites, and it's saying, if you look up in the top left there, it's saying takeoff permitted. So I've got another tripod set up here with another action too, so I can show you the stick movements that I'm doing on the controller as we're doing them. So we're not going to go through the Fly app completely, but we'll go through some of the basics. If you look in the top left there, it says takeoff permitted. Well, that's once the drone has enough satellites, and we can see on the right hand side there it shows 17 satellites. The next is the bars of signal we have, and we have full signal. Battery there, 99%. You can touch on that battery mode, and it'll tell you, once it's in flight, it'll tell you how long till return to home, how long till forced landing, etc., and how long till battery depletion. But the first thing I always do is I open up this safety menu, and I look at the max altitude. So I have it set at 120 meters. And that is the max that you can fly. That's about 400 feet. I have distance set at 2,000 meters. That's 2 kilometers. You're never going to fly this drone that far. You can set it up to unlimited if you want. Now the return to home is set way too high here, so I'm just going to use that slider. I'm going to move it down to about 30 meters. That where I'm at here, that's higher than any tree or anything else. Now, next thing you're going to see is the sensors, and it has the IMU, and it says it's normal, and it says the compass is normal. But often on your first flight, I would recommend calibrating the compass no matter what that says. If it's not normal, it will tell you to do it, but I simply will click on that where it says calibrate, and we'll do that. But before we do that, I want to show you what else you have on here. You've got the battery info, and that tells you the cell status on your battery. I look at that every time. You know, I don't think that's absolutely necessary, but I just wanted to point it out to you. And advanced safety settings tells you what to do when signal is lost, and I've got it set to return to home. And emergency stop, and this tells you how to do that. Both sticks down and in, or both sticks down and out, will stop the propellers. Now understand that if you've got it in the air, the drone is going to fall and hit the ground, so that is an emergency situation only. I've never had to do that. Then you have payload mode down there. That's if you've got sometimes you'll put a prop cage or something on there. That's nothing we need to worry about right now. But let's click on calibrate, and I'm going to go calibrate that compass. So I'm going to click calibrate. And you can see it's telling me I've got the start button there, and it will tell me exactly what to do. So I'm clicking start, and it's telling me to hold the drone horizontally and turn it, let's see, I guess that would be counterclockwise, and now it's telling me to hold the drone up and turn it counterclockwise. And it says that we have a good calibration. So I'll set it back down, and when you set it back down, it'll take a minute for the gimbal to stabilize again, and it has. So now, really, we're ready to take off, but there's a couple things that we need to talk about first. And one is, you can see there's a map in the bottom left side. That'll show you where you're at. Like if I push that out, you can see right where I'm standing at Heroes Park. And then if I click on the picture again, I'm back to my Fpv View, which FPV stands for first person view. You'll hear people talk about that quite a bit. But there's also what I prefer is what they call the attitude indicator. So I click on that little in the bottom right of the app, and this gives me the attitude indicator. And that's kind of a compass and tells me the attitude of the drone in the air, and you'll see how that works once we get in the air. Now, secondly, and it's a little hard to touch sometimes when you've got your phone in here, but you can see on the right-hand side, see where that little film strip, and it says 2.7K, and I'm in video mode. So you have in that menu, I could put it into photo mode, and that's just to take a picture. I can take a single shot or a time shot, and then there's the quick shots. And the drone has to be in the air, I guess, before I can get into that. but let's go into video, back to video mode, and you can see it's in 2.7K. I can change that at the bottom here. There's things that you can adjust on this, and yeah, it's showing 24 frames per second, but I could go down to 1080p if I wanted to. I always shoot in the max, and I always go to the max frame rate, which is 30 frames per second. So now if I touch on EV, I could change the exposure value, in other words, lighten or darken the picture. I always leave it at 0 in 90% of the time. A few cases I'll change it. Other people will tell you different. And then on the left-hand side there, it tells you the status of your SD card, how much room you have on there to record video. You can also put it into manual mode. If I click on that little button that's auto, you can see, you can see how the picture changed there, and you could adjust all of that stuff. So if you're, your white balance, your ISO, shutter speed, f-stops, etc. So I am not, I find the drone knows better than I do most of the time, so I'm just going to leave it in automatic. So because I primarily shoot video, that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to start video, and off on the right-hand side, there's that big red button. Boom, and the drone is now recording video to the SD card. So the next thing we want to do is take off. So there's a couple ways to do that. First, I'm going to show you the manual way, and there's also an automated way. But if you put both sticks down and in, the propellers, you can see the propellers turned on the drone, and then in the left stick, I slowly push up, and the drone takes off. And you can see it there hovering, and I just let go of the sticks and the drone is just hovering. But let's land the drone, and let me show you the automated way. So I'm holding the left stick down, and the drone just landed right back on the pad there because I didn't move it off. So there's an automated way to do that as well, and that is that on the very left-hand side, you see that arrow pointing up. I'm going to touch on that, and it's going to give me this takeoff in the middle. I hold that down, and as soon as that green ring closes, the drone does an automatic takeoff. And also I want you to point out to you that it just recorded its home point, and it told you so on the screen. If you saw that little dialog box in the upper left-hand side of the screen. So let's turn the drone around here, and let's get it facing towards the camera so you can see the drone up close. And I just did a yaw there, and I did that on the left stick. So let's go back. If I push it to the right, the drone is going to yaw, or excuse me, I went to the left. The drone yawed to its left. So I'm pointed straight back out there. Don't know my right from my left. Okay, let's go to the right this time, and you'll see the drone yaw to the right, and that just means it's turning in place, right? And the further to the right I push that, the faster that it would yaw. But now the drone is facing us, and so let's bring it into the camera. So to bring it into the camera, I'm going to what they call pitch forward, and that is on the right stick. So if I move that right stick forward, and this drone has no obstacle avoidance, so I could crash it right into the camera if I kept going. But there we have it. Let's go a little bit higher, and I'm doing that on the left stick. And so you're looking at the drone there, and if I want to back it up, I'm going to push that left stick down, and the drone is going to what they call pitch back, and you can saw it back up there. So I'm going to do some swifter movements here and show you. So back and forward and back, and you can see what they mean by pitching. So let's move it in again, and I'm going to show you how the drone banks here. So if we want to bank to the drone's right, and you remember this is going to be to the drone's right, I'm going to push this right stick to the right, and you saw it move there. And now I'm going to push that right stick to the left, and the drone is going to bank left. So remember, that's going to change whether the drone is facing you or away from you. That's going to change the behavior. And you see the drone moving around. We had a little gust of wind come up, but because it's a GPS stabilized drone, it copes with it quite well. So what I'm going to show you now is something that I do in virtually all my videos, and that's a droney. So with the scroll wheel down here, I'm going to point the camera down a little bit, and I'm looking at the FPV on my screen so I can see it's pointed down. And I'm going to do what they call a droney, and I want to move the drone backwards and I want to raise it in altitude. So I'm going to move the left stick up and the right stick down, and the drone is going to move away from me and rise. So let's do that right now. So as I move it away and I'm raising in altitude at the same time, and I can adjust my camera. I pick the camera up a little bit to kind of center us in the center of frame. And what I want you to notice there is if you look on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and I let go of the sticks, and the drone is just going to hover. When you let go of the sticks, the drone will hover. And you'll see in the bottom left-hand side there, it's telling us the height of the drone. It's 30 meters high, where it says the H there right next to the attitude indicator. And right next to that is the D for distance. It's 81 meters away. And above that is the speed. So above the H would be the horizontal speed, and above the distance would be the vertical speed. So you can see those are both at 0. Let's bring the drone down and bring it back to us. So to bring it down, I'm going to move the left stick down, and forward I'm going to move the right stick up. So just the opposite of what we did before. So let's move the drone back in. And I'm coming down pretty quick, and you can see that height is dropping, and I'm clear at the limits now, and I'm slowing down, and you can see the meters per second. And let's bring it in closer here. I'm going to get it right down to the height we need it at here, just a couple meters off the ground, and then we're going to bring it in here for you to look at. So there's the drone right in front of the camera again. And so that's essentially how you move the drone forward and backwards. So let's look now at if you want to, I guess what I'm going to suggest is, if this is your first flight, if you're new to flying drones, you practice. And one of the best things to do is to practice moving in a square. So let's do that without using the left stick at all, and we can show you how the bank and pitch work. So I'm going to move it to the drone's right, and that's moving that left stick to the right, and then I'm going to pull the stick down, and I'll move it backwards. And then I'm going to go to the drone's left, and we're moving to the left. And then we'll move it forward by pushing that right stick up. And then we're going to move back to the center of us here, and so we're going to move that right stick again to the right, and the drone will move to its right. And there we are, back in front of the camera again. So we can also do that with banking, right? Yeah, we can do that with banking. I didn't mean like a right turn. So we can also, we did it with banking. We're going to do it with yaw, excuse me. I'll get my terminology straight here. So again, to yaw the drone, that is on the left stick. So if I want to turn the drone to its right, I'm going to push that to its right, and you'll see the drone go to the right. Okay, so then let's push forward on that right stick, and the drone will move forward. And then let's move right again. We're going to turn the drone again to the right on that left stick, and we'll move forward. And as soon as I let go of the stick there, you saw the drone put the brakes on. It'll try and stop. As soon as you let go of that stick, the drone wants to go into a hover. Okay, so let me again, then I'm going to push to the right again, and then push forward on the right stick. Move the drone up. We're going to push right again. Get the drone pointed back towards us, and then on the right stick, move the right stick forward, and then the left stick to the right again, and forward. And then I'm going to yaw again. Let's just go to the right, and we'll go almost a 360, well, I guess a 270, and we'll get it pointed right at us here. So there we are. So there's the drone pointed right at us again. Okay, so let's do the same thing with the drone yawing to its left and moving the drone backwards. So we're going to pull that stick to the left, and the drone is going to turn to its left. And then I'm going to pull back on the stick and go to the corner, and then I'm going to have to do another 270. So I'm pulling the stick to its left, and then I've got the drone pointed forward again, and I'm going to pull back on the stick, and we're moving out. So in other words, instead of doing that 90 degree that we did when we're turning right, we're having to do, because we're doing left-hand yaws, we're having to go 270 degrees. And we've got the drone pointed where we want it to. Again, I'm going to pull on that right stick, pull down. The drone pitches backwards. And let's do that again. We're going to do another 270 till we get the drone pointed where we want it to. And you see that I did that one a little quicker, and you will too as you get used to it. Pull down on the stick. And you saw there the drone put on its brakes. So let's do that again. We're going to do another 270. And we're going to get the drone right back in front of the camera. Again, pull back on the stick. And let's then do another 270, and we'll get the drone pointed at us. So that's a good place to start. Now, as you develop confidence, you can do things like you can start to use the pitch and the bank and the yaw to do figure eights. You know, those are all things that you're going to do as you get confidence. So I'll just let you watch the stick movements that I make as I do that, and I'm doing it all with the yaw and the pitch here. I'm going to just do a figure eight, and now I'm going to move the other direction and do the top of the eight. Well, I turned a little bit too fast there, but you get the idea. And now we're going to close that eight, cross the eight, and we're going to come back here and stop and get back in front of the camera. Move it forward here for you to see it. So that's the other thing is, you know, you'll notice that the drone will make a lot of moves to stop, and you have to kind of keep that in mind when you're flying. You don't want to hit those brakes at the last minute. So I'm going to go full stick backwards and then let go of the stick, and you can see what will happen. So full stick backwards, and you can see the drone pitch, and I'll let go of the stick, and you saw it pitch forward there to stop. And we'll do the same thing going forward. I'm going to push that right stick all the way forward and then let go. And you saw it pitch back to stop, but you saw it takes some time for it to do that. So remember that. Don't get it, you know, right in front of an object and expect it to stop on a dime, because it simply can't. Okay, so we still, if you look at our battery meter in the top right-hand side, we're at, I think, about 48% battery. If I click on that, that shows you what I said before. It tells you time until return to home, which is saying 0 minutes. I'm not sure. That's some kind of an error, but 9 minutes and 48 seconds until return landing, and 11 minutes and 23 seconds until battery depleted. So return to home, I think maybe it's because it's too close to its home point. I'm sure it's probably why it's not showing anything there, because it knows it's already at its home point. But I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to take the drone back, and we're going to stop recording here for a second. Stop recording. And remember I talked about those quick shots? I'm going to click on that film strip again. We're going to go into quick shots, and I'm going to do something called a droney, and you'll see there's an X on me. I'll set myself as the droney point, and we have a little dialog box there that tells us distance. I'm going to put max distance, which is 40 meters. So that'll be as far as it goes. But I'm going to show you how to use the pause button on this drone. So I'm going to click start, and the drone is going to automatically do that maneuver, and it will start recording automatically as well. So let's click start, and you'll see a countdown. 3, 2, 1. And you'll see the drone start to execute the droney, and it's looking right at me, right? But let's say you're doing this droney and the drone's moving along and you see something behind you that you don't like and you want to stop the drone. That button in the top left of the controller, I hit that, and look at that. It stopped it right there in midair. That's called the pause button, and the pause button is your friend. Anytime the drone is in any kind of automated function and you want to stop, hit that button once and it will pause and stop. So let's go back into recording. I'm not going to go into all those quick shots. I've actually already done a video on that. Let's go ahead and start recording again. And let's bring the drone back to us. I'm going to do something else here. So the other thing that you need to know about is return to home. And I was busy looking other ways, someplace else instead of at the drone there. But that's why it's important to keep your focus. So return to home is important. Now, obviously, I could fly the drone back and land it, right? And land it on the landing pad there. One of the tricks there is you can point the camera straight down. And so again, on that camera scroll wheel on the left-hand side, I'm pointing the camera down. Well, I can back it up here. Yeah, you can see that landing pad. I could center it up on the landing pad, and then I could just pull the stick down and land. But often, I know some people say return to home is for emergencies only. I don't know. I like it. I use it all the time. So let's show you a couple different ways that you can do return to home. And again, when we first took off, you saw where it said it recorded its home point. Make sure every time you fly the drone that it successfully records its home point. So I'm going to back it up again, and so I'm going to go the right stick down and the left stick up, and we're going to move the drone out away from us. Another thing to mention to you is if we can see the drone is out 52 meters. If the drone is within 20 meters, it's only 20 meters away from you, and you hit return to home, it's simply going to land in place. Why is that important to you? Well, let's just say you were over a pond or something like that. You wouldn't want the drone landing in the water, so that's just something to bear in mind. If the drone is closer to you than 20 meters and you hit return to home, it's just going to land in place. And maybe if we have time here, we'll demonstrate that. But let's do a return to home, and we're going to do it on the app first. So we're going to click that on the left-hand side, the little H with the arrow pointing down. I'm going to push on that, and you'll see it gives me two things. I can either land or return to home. I'm going to click return to home. As soon as it closes that green, it starts coming back, and you see it raising to its return to home altitude that you may remember we set at 30 meters. So you'll see it go up to 30 meters, and then it'll start coming back to us. And I'm going to drop the camera down so you can see what's going on. That's me with that scroll wheel on the left-hand side, dropping the camera down. And let's see how close it gets to its home point here. Camera is pointed straight down, and the drone will start to descend, and it is now. I see it coming down, and it's quite a ways off from the takeoff point. This drone does not have precision landing. So what you would do in a situation like that is, again, you remember that pause button. You can stop it midstream in the top left here. If I push that button, it stopped that. You heard the beeping stop, and the drone paused. So let's go ahead and land it here, and I'm going to manually land it, and then we'll try the other form of You got to back it up here a little bit. We'll try the other form of return to home. So, I am right above the landing pad. In order to land, and I'll put the drone in landing mode, I'm going to pull that left stick straight down. And you'll see the drone say, it'll say landing. And yeah, I was a little bit off the pad there. It's a little bit on the grass, but let me get it back on the pad and let's take off again. Okay, I'm going to do a manual takeoff, both sticks down and in, and those motors fire up, and I'm going to push straight up on that left stick. And it should, yeah, it says home point updated. You'll see it there in the top left of your FPV screen. So let's fly out. Let's do it. Let's fly it a little bit further this time. I'm going to go straight up, and I'm still recording. Oh, it's telling me low battery, so it's going to want to come to home, return to home, and it will do that automatically. So let's fly it out. I'm pushing it out, and let's show you our speed. We're at about 7 meters per second there. Let's turn it around. We can put it in sport mode. If I push where it says P mode in the top left, that puts it in S mode. That is fast speed. If I push full forward, and you saw the camera pitch down there a little bit, it's at about, well, it should be a top speed of about 13 meters per second, and it's getting there. We're going to stop right there. It got a little over 13 meters per second, and it's going to go into automated return to home here. Yeah, so you can see on the screen here, this is good to show you. You will struggle to lose this drone. It's going to put itself into return to home. And I had it in sport mode, but when it goes into return to home, it's going to only go at normal mode speeds. So the thing that I didn't get to show you on this battery was you can also push that, what I showed you as the pause button. That will also put the drone into return to home. But it's coming home right now, and you can see it's moving at about, yeah, look, it's moving right along. Well, shoot, it's over 10.5 meters per second, so it's not wasting any time. That's faster than P mode, or which is the normal speed mode. So I want to punch that button again, that S mode, and you can see that that puts it in C mode. Yeah, and that stopped return to home. It stopped it from descending, but C mode is the slowest mode, and that, you know, often if you're on your first flight, you may want to try that. So I'm pulling down on the left stick. I'm manually landing the drone, and you can see it's when it gets down to 10% battery, it's saying, you know, I want to land. And I'm adjusting the attitude of the drone. I'm yawing a little bit, and I'm bringing it down. And as we get closer, I'll move it forward, and we'll get right over the top of that pad. So you can see we've got the drone a lot lower now. I'm going to move forward. A little more. That's pretty darn close. A little more forward, and I'm going to pull straight down on that left stick. And it should pick up the camera automatically. And again, I'm a little bit off the pad, but you saw how the drone automatically pointed the camera back forward. And so we're down, and you know, if I click on that battery again, you know, you can see, well, it doesn't show it once it was landed, but down to 6% battery. So one thing you're always going to remember is if you're recording, shut off recording before you power off the drone. That way it closes out the file. If you don't do that, you can corrupt a file, and there's ways that you can recover it, but the video file may not be readable. So remember to always do that. So let's talk about the shutdown procedure. Now, I don't think that there's any particular order that you have to go in. So let's turn off the remote control first, or sometimes it's called the ground station, and that's the power button on the right hand side. Let's hold that down. Short press and long press, I should have said, and then you can see the lights went off, and you can see then on the app it says RC not connected. And then I'm going to go grab the drone and we'll shut it off. So again, to turn this guy off, a short press and a long press. And you see the light quits blinking down below there, so we know it's off. Yeah, that's about it. The other thing that I do is I like to get the gimbal cover on right away and get the drone folded all up right away. You know, that way you avoid potential damage. So the other thing I'm going to kind of point out to you, when you're taking your phone out, it's so easy to drop your phone. And so usually I do it over the grass or a table or something like that, but I'll see if I can avoid that, doing that now. But you know, you could drop your phone. I'm over concrete right now, so just a word of caution there. Hey, okay, that was actually a fun flight. I've got everything folded up here and ready to put away. So now remember, on the SD card on the back of your drone here is where you're going to find those video files with the video that you recorded while you were flying, or pictures if you took a picture. I showed you picture mode, but I didn't show you how to take a picture, but it's very simple. You either push that, like we push the red button to start recording, the button would be white, you push that and it would take a picture. You can also do it on the controller here, taking a picture on this side and on the other side starting a recording. So yeah, I mean, we showed you kind of the basics of control. There's a lot more to learn. And what I would encourage you to do is get out there and practice, do those figure eights, do those squares, and then these sticks and this controller becomes second nature to you, and you're not even thinking about it while you're flying the drone. And there's some really cool features with this drone, and you saw some of the video. It looks really good. I mean, it takes really good video, and flight time is really good too. I don't know how long we were up in the air there, but it was quite a while, and I got to show you a lot of things. Including return to home. I did want to show you how to press the return to home button and get it come back, but it went into low battery. I almost said emergency return to home. Low battery return to home, as it should. So you don't need to be afraid of getting the drone out there and it runs out of battery, because it's going to know. It knows it's time to come home, and it'll put itself into return to home. First it gives you that warning, but then if you don't come back, it'll do it itself. Now, word of caution there. Understand, if there's an obstacle between the drone and its home point, it doesn't know it. This guy doesn't have any obstacle avoidance sensors. It'll run right into it. So that's why it's important to set that return to home height higher than whatever the tallest obstacle is around you, so that you know the drone can get back to you. So I guess that's about it. I hope you found this useful. This is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel out. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Most of all, I absolutely appreciate you taking the time to look at this video. The little DJI Mini SE, just a really cool piece of technology. You know, especially if you live in Canada, you can fly this drone without any license, or you know, you can just, don't be stupid is what they say up in Canada with a sub 250 gram drone. So anyway, that's it. See you guys later.